Just like that, we've got someone else cycling in. And unless I'm vastly mistaken, you are Mark Madsen, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And I believe you are an analyst of some kind. Tell me more.
I'm a research analyst, so I spend about half my time doing technology research, base technology and practice research, to kind of fill that gap in between industry analyst firms that track company and product line, and work more with IT and business departments on implementation and what's important there.
What are the things that are important that you come here to focus on learning more about and then writing about?
Well, for this conference, I'd say the important stuff is really still in the early stages of practice and technology, and which things may or may not win, and which things are working, and what practices people are following. So mostly I'm looking for the cases and examples of the early adopters.
Okay. So what's working?
What's working? That's a really good question, because
I try to do those every now and then.
people say things like Hadoop are working, and they're working for some people,
Yep.
and they're totally failing for others. And people are saying that the new models of database work really great, but they work really great for some people, and other people say we just spent $2 million and got nothing. So it's real hit or miss, and you have to be very careful about the context and practice and the skill of the people doing it still for a lot of this.
And skills seem like a fairly important area here in terms of data science and finding people who can both apply the tools and then think, I guess, in the way of larger sense in architecture in terms of how you're building the systems. What were some of the takeaways from this morning in terms of how different companies had built things that succeeded?
What I really liked about a couple of talks this morning was getting past these technical skills. You know, data scientists or analysts or whatever. In sort of the old world of operations research or the statistics and research groups that companies laid off 15 years ago that they're hiring back again now, that was a big component of it. But there's a lot more soft skill now than there used to be, because there's a lot more self-serve. So, you know, we saw talks where people were talking about the hard parts, data analysis and knowing data and managing data and technical query things. And then visual design and storytelling and the ability to explain in convincing ways what's in the information, and collaboration with other people, because there's a lot of process and activity in the business that needs to be captured and measured properly, or you can go wrong ways, like the great talk on sentiment analysis and reviews and how what seems to be sensible is completely wrong.
That was a fairly interesting talk, with Amazon using Mechanical Turk to try to improve the quality of its reviews after they found that poorly written reviews actually led to negative sales. Now, what was the approach they took that used data to get to that insight? Because we can understand how they use Mechanical Turk to get people to help fix it.
Well, the interesting part in his presentation was the analysis of text and saying, well, our approach to sentiment analysis and finding the positive or negative sentiment, that's great, but that's just about the text. What was the action that people took? And does that correlate to the action or not? And when you look at it that way and you just take those bits of text, you find much more interesting aspects that you can then measure, and you can say, well, sure, the sentiment was positive, but it led to a decrease in sales. Very counterintuitive finding, but you have to link all the steps in the chain in order to do that. And that was part of what he was doing with some of that research.
Linking things together, funniest thing how that works. Linked open data hasn't been much of a conversation here yet, but I expect to hear more at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still sort of skeptical in the semantic web world because, well, one, it's still very early, but two, as you start to get into information theory and language and you fall down the rat holes of the, you know, say Noam Chomsky and context-free grammars and all kinds of crazy arcane things, you realize just how deep a subject it is and how hard it is to systematize that and make software that can actually deal with it.
I'm still trying to process James Gleick's The Information from earlier this year. Massive tome trying to examine this information theory space. And it's an amazing book if you viewers haven't read it. And certainly this conference is helping me to think through some of what's presented there. Any big takeaways from this morning for you? I know you'll be here for certainly the rest of the day, and you'll continue to be tweeting out some of the insights as you go.
There's no one big thing. There's been a lot of small things. You know, the focus on the skill side, which I've really enjoyed because I don't see that much. Most of the focus is on technology at most big data events. And some of the focus on analysis and the linkage to the business. Really enjoyed those aspects of it because I feel like we don't see enough of that discussion in the market.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for coming by. If people want to follow your insights in real time, it's at Mark Madsen on Twitter, I think, and you've been using the StrataConf hashtag. Look forward to hearing more from you as the conference goes on, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us and our viewers.
Thanks a lot.